very long time in Medfield, and Ruth Nadler, as you remember, was a big, she really championed the Triad program. So we about 4 times a year, 5 times a year, Joe provides speakers and information for our breakfast.
Yellow dot.
Oh, yellow dot, yep, and you can talk about those. So I'm going to hand this over to you, and then you can talk until the sheriff comes. And I'll introduce the sheriff.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Joe Canavan, and I work for Norfolk County Sheriff Michael Bellotti. We do the Triad Program, seniors and law enforcement together. Your fine police chief, Bob Meany, has agreed to be the chair for the past few years. So, and he's out at a official business. We're doing some lockdown drills at your other schools in town. So, Chief Meany and Chief Kingsbury and the fire department did a wonderful job. I really want to thank Roberta for hosting us 4 or 5 times a year that we're out here. We were out here every month, but we have speakers probably quarterly. We get breakfast. We had in the past, we had the gentleman from LoJack Safety that was here before. We had someone from the Secret Service agent, John O'Connor, came out. John O'Connor spoke. And so we also have a number of programs. The Are You OK program is a telephone reassurance program. This is open for all people in Norfolk County. It's a free daily reassurance phone call. We have the Yellow Dot program. We also have LoJack Safety Net, which Ralph Poland spoke about before. And our next meeting is December 10th. We're going to have Cheryl Banbury come out and do a presentation on fall prevention for seniors and some nutrition tips. Cheryl is also the person that works the IUOK program. She'll talk about that. So that'll be in December. And I'll be available for, and there's some files of life up here, and some, you got your jar openers from Cheryl? Yeah. And, we have some key persons here, so there's some files of life. Again, these programs are ongoing. And today, as a speaker today, Roberta asked if we could get Sheriff Bellotti to come out and speak to you folks. And he's here today. So today's speaker is going to be Sheriff Bellotti. So,
thank you, Joe. This is probably better. Obviously. Better this way or with this way? This or this? The mic?
No mic.
No mic. I am Mike. I am Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Okay, Mike Bellotti, Norfolk County Sheriff. Been there 17 years. I was a state rep for 6 years before that, and I just want to let you know how honored I am to be here today. We started Triad several years ago, and it's strong in most communities, but it's not strong in all communities. It's really a function of the Council on Aging Director on the South Council, or I know the police chief is very active. So when you have the kind of the major stakeholders kind of supporting this, what is really a national program, it's just a stronger program. And in Medfield, you folks are lucky because the selectmen, the police chief, and fire chief, Council on Aging Director, and the volunteers, particularly those who work in and around senior issues, are very active. How old is this now? I think I was there for the grand opening several years ago.
8 years.
8 years ago, yeah. It shows a commitment by the town when they invest in infrastructure like this. And again, a lot of the towns in Norfolk County have either built a senior complex or a community center or council on aging office like this, or they're thinking about it over the, this has happened over the past, from what my observation, past several years. In the sheriff's office, I'll give you a quick, kind of overview of the sheriff's office. There's 14 sheriffs in Massachusetts. Okay, we're all elected every 6 years. We'll all be on the ballot next year. Democrats, Republicans. If you look at our resumes, our experience, former state troopers, former local police officers, folks that were social workers that ran, former ADAs or district attorneys. I was a small business owner and a legislator who got involved with public safety issues, and I ran in 1998. Former teachers. I think I have everybody covered. We have, I think that's about it. It's a very kind of different levels of experience. and you don't have to be public safety or a police officer to kind of to thrive in the role of sheriff in Massachusetts. Because what we essentially do is we oversee, our different agencies. We do house inmates, and I have 300 employees, maybe 320. The past 4 or 5 years, we've gone from about 388 to 320 because we've been shifting a lot of our resources to the outside world with the stakeholders in those areas that offenders can connect with when they leave the jail as their sentence is wrapping up. But we still spend about 2/3 of our budget, $33 million, on security of inmates, housing inmates. And 200 of those 200 employees are uniformed guys. And you might see them on the street, deputy sheriffs or at Gillette Stadium. We do get extra training for those folks, for those officers, and about half of them are sworn deputy sheriffs, and they work with your police chief and police chiefs around Norfolk County in a complementary, kind of supplementary way when they need kind of enhancement of public safety and law enforcement for different incidents, or again, like the football game at Gillette Stadium. So we're very proud of our outside police work, but we know that our core mission is care and custody. And we can have anywhere from 500 to 700 inmates housed in Dedham. Are you all familiar with the jail in Dedham on Route 128? It's the only jail located on a median strip. Technically, that's a median strip, I guess, in America. It was housed in 1993. I mean, built. So my goal, I guess, and my mission is public safety first, to make sure that jail is safe for staff and inmates, and that the public is safe, because we're running a sheriff's office where offenders, can't escape. The average sentence is only 9 months. No one stays longer than 2.5 years, because the sheriffs house the offenders who come out of district court. Okay, the Superior Court, the more serious crimes or offenders or criminals, those who are convicted, they go to state system, the Department of Correction, which falls under the jurisdiction organizationally of the government under public safety. Okay, so Department of Corrections probably houses about 10,000 inmates. We house collectively as sheriffs, about 10 to 12,000. Collectively as sheriffs, we house about 10,000 too. So you can see how the population is almost divided evenly between the type of offenders or criminals and where they end up. Our challenge is, they have great challenges, Department of Correction, and we have nothing to do with them other than our collaboration, supporting each other in certain areas. But we don't have any involvement in how they house their inmates. And their average stay is probably 5 to 10 years. So different challenges. Our challenges on the county level is we're getting these offenders, and you see what's happening with the drug issue, and how the old way of kind of warehousing people, because they ended up in jail because they were either high or stoned or looking for drugs or knocking over a drugstore or kicking, in someone's back door to get money for drugs or get into their medicine cabinet these days. That's happening more. They're addicts, and if they have violence or that type of risk, then they're going to be treated differently. But 80% of the offenders at Norfolk County Sheriff's Office, and I think these are national standards, are there because of drugs and or alcohol. So the biggest challenge in corrections right now is, to what extent are we social services compared to, in contrast to, and to what extent we're a jail, where it's basically deterrent, where if they go to jail, that will deter folks from breaking the law. And they will often, those folks we do put in jail will learn a lesson and hopefully not break the law. That is a very, very difficult question. And every time you turn on the news, you hear governors, whether Republicans or Democrats, U.S. senators, talk in ways no one's ever talked about in the past 50 or 60 years when it comes to public safety in the criminal justice system. They're now leading with things like, we have an opiate crisis. We're housing people who are addictions. In 5, 6, 7 years ago even, and of course certainly 10 to 20 years ago, I think the prevailing kind of conventional wisdom on this was, if you end up in jail, you deserve to be there. And if you're a drug addict, that's your choice. And society has no other way of dealing with you. Well, we're shifting way far away from that stance. The question is, to what extent are we going to be careful not to compromise public safety in the, in the safety of our communities like Medfield, Quincy, where I grew up, Braintree, Foxborough. This issue's everywhere. So I think that, with the governor's leadership and the legislation, but really the sheriffs, because we all get to do things a little bit differently, most of what we do is the same. We house inmates, we're controlled by federal and state regulations, we have to worry about the constitutional rights of inmates to make sure that they're housed properly, have access to lawyers to deal with their issues, and that they have a certain amount of due process when it comes to discipline in there, and that they can access programs and again, legal access to the legal system. So, how much do you shift into a social kind of service model? And I believe that public safety comes first. And if on some level, if people know they're going to be arrested for kicking down your door at noontime because they need a fix, or they're pursuing money or iPads or something to sell because it's uncontrollable, there still has to be some deterrent there. There has to be some punishment. On the other hand, a lot of these folks don't care if they go to jail. So it's a balance. And what we've been trying to do with the Sheriff's Office in Norfolk County is, as I said, we had 388 employees right around there, give or take a few, 4, 5, 6 years ago. We've been able to reduce my public employment staff levels to about 320 by taking some of that money and working with the unions and shifting it towards those programs that those offenders need to be involved with before and after they're incarcerated. For example, many of the inmates don't have GEDs. They don't have a high school degree. Many of them have anger management issues. Many of them have ADD, executive function, bipolar. We're getting a lot more mental health issues because we de-institutionalized much of that area, as we all know, many years ago. And they're falling through the cracks. In Quincy, there's a lot of homeless people who have substance abuse problems, but they're essentially dual diagnosed. They have mental health issues. You can see it as a layperson if you walk through Quincy Center in the middle of the day. We have a homeless shelter, and they're kind of kicked out of the homeless shelter in the daytime, so they're hanging around Quincy Center, and it's obvious that this is substance abuse and mental health. So we're dealing with mental health issues, and we're taking some of those resources that we saved by having less employees, but using that money with social and mental health, or those type of social service folks in the mental health field that can provide services to these inmates outside the four walls. Are they recovery homes? We probably spend about $400,000 a year renting, buying, holding beds in recovery homes. So these inmates, still under my jurisdiction, with anywhere from 30 to 4 or 120 days left in their sentence, we can shift them into the community. They can be drug testing. They'll be on the bracelet so we know they are at all times. But they're in a recovery home, in a recovery setting, which is where many of them belong. And I'll tell you why they belong there. Not so much they might belong there when they belong in jail, but you can't just release them with $5, for bus fare after 2 years in jail. They need a transition into into a recovery setting where they have more freedom, but there's more accountability. So if they fail a drug test, they're coming back to jail. Unlike probation, which does a good job, if you're on probation and you violate probation because you fuck a drug test, you don't show up to a meeting, an AA meeting, an NA meeting, well, that probation officer has to take you back to court and afford you due process in front of a judge, and the judge surrenders you to jail. With us, we already have you in jail. We're allowing you to go back into the community tied to all these different programs. And if you don't play by the rules, well, if you have a bad attitude, we'll just pull you back. We don't have to go in front of a judge. So that's why post-mandatory supervision is really necessary in the state. The sheriffs have these guys. They're used to playing by the rules with us. There's a saying at Norfolk County Jail in Dedham, and we also have a security, and we have a Daily Police in Quincy, but I think this is a saying that's common in corrections, is you can be a great inmate and a bad citizen. And for years, you know, these young correction officers who grew up with some of these inmates who are doing life by the installment plan, because they're in and out until like the age of 35, 40, they'll say, this guy was the best inmate. You know, and the guys, you know, who do AA programs. He might even get his high school degree. And he'll say, I'm going to be changed this time. He'll go out that back door, be a free man, you know, wrap up his sentence. He'll be back in a week. You know, that wasn't uncommon. Because there was no step down. There was no, what I would call, incremental kind of, giving up more freedoms. It was too black and white. In jail, no drugs, do the right thing, and the next day you're out, and no one's connected you to a different world. Right back to the crack house, right back to that environment that led you being arrested, right back to the same people without having a recovery home bed, or finishing a high school degree, or a vocational program, or connected to a mental health service. Okay, so that's what we need to do with correction. We need to find a way to not, and I want to be out of business, to make sure the right people are in jail, the ones that are a threat to you and me, my kids and my mother, in Quincy, in Medfield, in Braintree, in Brookline. You know, we don't want those folks on the street. There are people out there, even in House of Corrections, who have serious anger management issues and just have that criminal kind of mind. There's a lot of them who have some deficits in those areas, education. One other thing we try to do is, you know, mass health. You know, Obamacare, it is becoming more and more acceptable to put folks who need it on public health care, because they don't have the Cadillac plan, or they don't have any health care at all. We found through national studies, and our own kind of studies, is that if they don't have health care, you know, that leads to them being rearrested, being recidivated. What's the connection? Well, it's just one of those things where it's another obstacle for them. They can't go to a hospital, you know? So we're accessing all the inmates and the offenders before they leave to mass health. So the day they leave, they can be connected to a healthcare clinic in Quincy or Randolph or the Boston area, or, you know, somewhere, you know, this part of the county. Because they have found that healthcare, mental health, lack of housing, lack of education. Now, this sounds like, you know, maybe it's a very liberal, why are we spending money on offenders? Because it's going to make our communities safer. There will be less nuisance crimes in your neighborhoods. You know, do you want an inmate to be a great inmate for 2 years who went to jail because they broke into 10 houses in Medfield to come out with no connection or no drug testing or no monitoring? Or do you want, you know, think of it and make him, you know, someone in your neighborhood who you know was a good kid, but got caught up with all kinds of drugs, and it changed his behavior. And he was, you know, every now and then, like in Quincy, you hear about a rash of break-ins, and everyone kind of knows who it might be, you know? But it's kind of scary, because they're breaking houses in the middle of the day. You know, I don't want that. My parents are 92 and 91, and they still live in the house that I grew up in. You know, there's 12 of us in Quincy, and somebody could, you know, knock down that door any night or any day. And, you know, you want to make sure that if these type of people are first locked up and then monitored when they leave, and they're tied to those type of resources. So as you're picking up the Globe and the Heroin, Channel 4, 5, and 7, and NCN, and all those channels, you're going to hear more about this opiate, opiate crisis. We all know how it happens. A lot of these kids get injured, even athletes, and they might be a great student, and then they end up, you know, some doctor. A lot of people think they over-prescribe, that's a debate, and some doctors give them some OxyContins or some type of opiate, and within a week they're committed or addicted, and they're not getting off it. And then they're chasing prescriptions. And then once they can't get that pill through the doctor, they're buying it on the street for like $70 a pill. Then they run out of money. So then they start doing heroin for about $10 a bag. In the old days, heroin was considered a back alley, junkie, urban type of thing. It is now everywhere because it's become the cheap substitution for OxyContin, which is too expensive. They get hooked on the pills, They can't afford the pills, they go to the heroin. Okay, and, you know, there was some kind of, I don't know if these are urban legends, but you hear stories about these, you know, these young addicts who hear about a couple of kids that died, like in the Southie Projects or Quincy or Weymouth or Braintree, because they OD, then they actually think that's a good place to get drugs. That must be strong drugs. Imagine that? They go to the place where kids are ODing as addicts because they think that's a strong drug. That tells you, and I'll just wrap up with this. There's a lot of science now being applied to this issue. In the old days, and I think it works, and it's still one of the most successful programs in the history of America, AA was a lot about, you know, you hit your rock bottom, you make choices, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, friends and family, people involved in that program, it's one of the best volunteer programs that has saved lives. But what they started to do now is saying, yeah, there's some cognitive behavior here. The brain changes once you start doing certain drugs, heroin and opiates. Literally, parts of the brains, the connections change physically so that you cannot undo the damage because the way your body craves and your brain craves this drug. It's almost impossible to get off some drugs because of what's happening in a scientific way to your brain. So they're bringing science to it now. What that means, I don't know. I don't know if that means that, you know, we have methadone and those types of drugs that some people, you know, don't want in their neighborhoods, and you see these guys and you think, wow, they're like in a zombie state, but they're functioning on some level versus ODing. These are all the questions they're going to be asked and maybe answered. Who knows if they'll be answered? But, you know, how much do you apply science to this? I know that one thing that jail does for a lot of these addicts is it forces them into sobriety, which is a bad thing. If you simply commit a family member to Bridgewater, by statute, they can keep someone there 90 days. They only keep them there on the average 14 to 21. Because their theory is this. Once that person is healthy, once they're cognizant, once that person can say, I want to leave, they're going to let them leave after 14 to 21 days. Because you have the right to kill yourself. You know, that's the Constitution. As long as you know what you're doing and you're somewhat competent. But with this new science, what's going to happen is there's going to be a different view on that. We'll see how the courts handle it. Wait a minute. Yeah, this person can articulate, you know, everything that a competent person could. This person can willingly say, hey, if I die, that's up to me. I want my drugs. But constitutionally, as you look at these rights, you know, scientifically, the science says they don't really have control. They need 90 days to 120 days of forced sobriety, locked down. But, you know, in this country, individual rights are so paramount that, you know, it's hard to get there. But more and more, I think we're getting there. But at least with jail, I had a friend of mine who, you know, this guy in New Orleans just got locked up, and I thought, wow, that's the best thing that could happen to him. He's got a family, you know, he can't get sober. Now he's in jail in New Orleans for 6 months, and everyone's relieved. It's kind of sad that the criminal system is handling these issues, but it's where we are right now. You know, the alternative would be to kind of be able to lock people up civilly for 3 to 6 months until, you know, that science reverses and the brain kind of comes to a point where they can make better decisions. So I guess that's it. We're very proud of our outside programs in the senior areas, our youth programs, and, you know, the partnerships we have with the police chief, the fire chief, the council on aging, and even the schools to a certain degree. But mostly, it's not lost on me. We do care in custody, and my main function, and 98% of my budget goes towards public safety, housing, inmate security, so it's safe for all, particularly the community. But equally important, that when they come back to Medfield or these other communities, that they're tied to drug testing, resources, and they have a better shot at not, you know, breaking the law. So, and I just want to thank, you know, Louis Theos, you worked this area hard? I worked for Louis at Anthony's Pier 4. Remember Anthony's Pier 4? Anyone ever go there? Remember, that was like the restaurant. He was the general manager for how many years? 35? 32. I was the head valet. There's Howie Carson. I was moving up in my chosen profession. I parked cars there for 6 years. And Mr. T was the boss. He was the dean of discipline in the shadow government and the GM of all that was Pier 4. That was the busiest restaurant in the country for years. Right? Remember, anyone that arrived in Boston in the 70s and 80s, and I think the 60s too, you know, if you said, where are you going to, you know, I need seafood, I'm in Boston, go to Anthony's Pier 4 and Jimmy's Harborside, right? Now, you know, that was before Kevin White built up the skyline. We saw it happen. And there were a lot of tourists back then. Remember, even back then, people were plugging buses. And he ran the whole show for years, for Mr. Thanes. So I'm glad that he's helping me out. And I appreciate that. You know, Joe Cannon. And so I'll give you an update. You know, my father, I don't know if you remember Frank Bellotti. He was Attorney General from 74 to 86. He ran for governor 3 times and lost 3 times. He said it builds character. Thank you. Somebody voted for him. He must be a Democrat. Well, we were Republican. So he's still alive. He's 92. He works every day. He's still driving. And my mother still plays tennis at 91. She's still, oh yeah. They just bought a 4-bedroom house in Naples, Florida in their 90s. I said, we think you guys should come and visit us. Okay. They never invited us before. And, my father's got a 2-year-old German Shepherd, and he said, my next dog won't be a German Shepherd. I said, you'll be 108 when you get your next dog. Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much. I appreciate, you know, all that you do to, you know, to help each other, really. Because when seniors are involved, whether it's through Triad, or the Council on Aging, whatever it is, when one senior gets involved, it inspires another senior to get involved. And you really, you know, as healthy, as independent many of you are, you really want to help the folks on the margins and let them know, you know, this is a lifestyle issue. This is about living healthier. Folks who sometimes might get depressed or deal with a couple ailments and they've kind of given up on society. You know, the more thriving you are, the more you inspire them, the more we, you know, make this kind of work for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for coming. Again, I want to thank Roberta and the town of Medfield for hosting this event today. And we will be back December 10th, Thursday, with a presentation on fall prevention. And so we'll be here for that. It's a great one. Bring some friends. Okay? And have a good day. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you again. I want to thank Roberta for hosting this event. Thank you very much. She does a great job, doesn't she? Did a great place.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.